All right, I think you can hear me. I think everybody can hear me. Tara can hear me. Fairly certain. Tara, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, Tara. All right, well, we'll find out the hard way, I guess. Almost there. Okay, all right. 3. Hold on. Let me try this. I'm gonna roll straight into this and just make sure everything's up and running. And also, there's Tara Dublin was in and out, and then she's in there, and then there she is. I hope she can hear me just fine. You cannot hear me? I'm sending audio your way, so it's on your end. I'm sending audio to you. I can see it going out. It's true. It's the only way. Yes. It's somewhere in. Yes. Just fiddle around. I'll get it until I hear you. I won't bring you in. Go for it. She's signaling me. We don't know what the signal means. It might mean bring in the chat room for a moment so that they can talk. Hi, chat room. Welcome to the show. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. For some reason, or maybe she's not frozen. I'm seeing it cycle. So, there is definitely audio coming through there. I'm just not getting audio from Tara. So. Oh, you can't hear me. I feel like I'm C-3PO, sorry, it was Mark. It was actually Luke Skywalker pretending that his helmet didn't work in the original Star Wars. Audio lost in the Matrix. It happens. I'm not afraid of it. How could do an hour long? Well, I definitely can do that. Give me a second, and I will. Let's see. We'll turn this on and off. We'll do. She's definitely in there. There's definitely. Everything's firing on my end, so it's an audio issue on Andrea. You might want to tell her that it's an audio issue on her end, that she's not. She should be able to hear some. If she can hear something from her computer, she'll be able to hear everything from her computer, and that's the way you test. Kids, I've done it many, many times, and I highly recommend it. The power of finding a long YouTube video with a bunch of like random chill music that you can play in the background, and that it's just running, and then you're like, oh. Look at that. Send her a new link. No, because this link works. By God and by golly. It's one of those things too where, and by the way, hello, welcome to Housemarks Mornings, Megaworldwiide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. She's still. Is she working on it? She fixing things? You're working on it? Okay, I can't tell if you. So you can hear me. I just can't hear you. Apparently, or is she listening off another source of audio? She's writing notes on a piece of paper to hold it up like a hostage. I am on this show of my own free will. Welcome, everybody. Morning. Would people please subscribe? Can you just do that? For God's sake. It's very old school. That's true. Yeah. Normally, we would do these interviews with 2 tin cans and a piece of string. Oh, checking. She's checking. Hey! There you are. Hold on. I'm hearing some noise. Look at that.
Hold on.
See?
Hold on.
And you were worried.
Hi.
There you go.
I can see you. I don't see me with you, but I can hear you.
Well, you're not with
now
me.
And see.
You're not with me yet because I wouldn't put you on the screen while you're doing the tech scramble. I'm kind
Thank
like
you.
that. Let me show you how it's actually done. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, joining us this morning.
Hi.
Long time no
Hi.
see.
Hi, my friend.
Hi.
I almost feel like crying. I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, it's a lot. And please don't, because I've
How
done
are
enough
you?
of that.
I know.
It's funny. The description of it is I feel like it's, I just saw Summer and I went and saw with a group of people that she works with. We went and saw the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere, and
Mhm.
it's I recommend it. It's very fun. It's silly and ridiculous and cool and whatever, and it's a thing. But during the tornado sequence, the tornado moves through the space, and so they blow these giant fans on you, and there's like leaves they throw in while you're watching everything go around, and then you get into the
Mhm.
eye of it, and it become all the wind goes away. It's just like a little peripheral wind and noise and stuff, and then it's very clear. You can see the blue sky through the center of it, but you're still in the middle of a tornado, and then it moves on again, and there's
Mhm.
cows like okay. It feels
Yeah.
like there's a tornado on my life that's just kind of moving backwards and forwards. So I have these
Yeah.
moments of like blue sky mixed with the tornado part, and there's a depth and a beauty to that moment. That makes sense. If
Mhm.
anything, the
Yeah.
depth and the beauty. I've said many times that I am often panicked by the beauty of life, and I that's what Sometimes I'm brought to tears by just how miraculously cool this whole craziness is, and in those
Right.
moments, it's the moments. It doesn't mean the storm has passed at all, but there's moments of clarity in it that are brought about by the depth and the gratitude of having them in the first place.
Right. Well, grief is a motherfucker, and
Mm-hmm.
it will hit you when you least expect it,
Yep.
and it's a process, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no wrong way to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
You can only hope that you reach the point that Joe Biden often talks about as someone who has experienced,
Yeah.
catastrophic loss in personally in his life. He says to people who lose family members that they love. He specifically says this to parents who lose
Lost their
children, but it
children.
is true of it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's true of every human being, because part of being human is losing the humans we love. That there will come a time when the mention of their name brings a smile to your face instead of a tear to your eye. And I may
Mm-hmm.
be paraphrasing, but that is true. And if you're lucky enough to have someone that you loved enough to miss like that, like that's something that you
Mm-hmm.
can carry in your body
Yes.
forever.
That would be
Right?
the depth and the gratitude of this. And wait, hold on.
Right.
Swims with Whales. Thank you so much for saying that. Um m- my my I'm very aware of it because we had a service for my dad on Friday night, and
Mhm.
so many people that were my age and older were coming up talking about how my dad was like a dad to them,
Yeah.
and replaced the fact that they didn't have this relationship with their own father. So
Aw.
thank you, Pam. Pam's like, so let's not make Hal cry. Exactly. So
Let's not
and
do
it
that. I can
and it
entertain you with bad. Do you want bad dad stories? Because I have 56 years worth
no
of that, if you want that.
no.
We can just use my world as entertainment and
Let me
fodder.
let me tell
We
you
can
a
just use
little.
that.
Let me tell you a little something, folks. When my boy was little and he did something bad, I noticed that some kids, because kids will test the waters and kids have to learn how to lie. There's a certain level of
Right.
polite society that runs on mild lying. You know what I mean? Even if it's
Mhm.
just I'm fine when you're not, so that we can all get on with it because it's not germane to the circumstance and it's none of your goddamn business. So that little lie
Right.
is very complex. It's got a lot of moving parts, takes a lot of
Yeah.
subtlety and the ability to do it. But when you're a kid, you don't know how to do that yet. When you're a toddler, you're like, a dragon flew in the window, took a cookie, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, you've got chocolate on your face and crumbs on your shirt.
Right.
The dragon flew and took a cookie. Right. So you've got to, on the one hand, you want to make sure the kids tell, as much of the truth as is evolutionarily positive in
Sure.
their life that won't
Sure.
make them get killed by yelling some uncomfortable truth. Which there is a story that my dad always told about me that almost got us both
Mhm.
killed doing just that in West Virginia. But
Yeah.
when my kid would do some, I would see kids at his school do something terrible, like kick somebody or bite somebody or say something awful or
Mhm.
whatever, and they would be forced to go say I'm sorry. They go tell them you're sorry, and they go sorry, and then they just leave back.
Right.
Just and you knew they
Right.
didn't mean it, and you knew it didn't sink in. So I came up with this thing that I did with Camden, where I said when he would when and if, and it became less and less because he's a very conscientious, beautiful human being now. But when he was
Mhm.
little and he would do stuff like that, I would go over them, say sorry, tell them why you are saying sorry. what you are
Mhm.
sorry for. And then
Right.
come back and tell me what they said.
Mhm.
And so that, the whole conversation, he's responsible for both the person's response and his own honesty in that moment. And he would come back and he would
Mhm.
go, Grandma said, I kicked her foot and it was mean, but she appreciates me saying I'm sorry and that she loves me, and I would say, thank you for doing that. I love you. And
Right.
that made him, I think that played a huge part in what a conscientious human being he is. So I would say that is a skill anybody can pick up. So one of the things I will say to all the adults out there in the world, that if you are ever going to say I'm sorry to someone, tell them
Mhm.
why, and listen deeply to their response, and
Yeah.
then relate that whole thing to someone else you care about, who will go, you know what, I got to tell you something. I was really mean to so and so, or I did something awful, and I apologize, and I said
Mhm.
I'm sorry for doing this or whatever, and they said this, because that person who is in your life will more than likely respond with, "Way to be an asshole, but I appreciate you doing that, and that's really great." They'll do the exact same thing I did, as an adult, and the world would spin a lot smoother on its axis if people tended to do that.
Well, it's taking responsibility for the way you make another person feel,
Exactly.
and whether you intended to or not, and most of the time you don't, and you don't know what you're doing is or what you're doing is impacting the way another person feels unless they tell you. And in when it comes to human communication, I've said this to my own children, I'm not a mind reader.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't tell me what's going on with you, I can't
Oh,
process what's going on with you. I can't help you. And I can't improve the way I behave if I don't know I've done something that's hurt your
see, that
feelings.
was where you
So
felt.
please tell me.
Yeah, see,
It's all about communication.
right. See,
It is
I
about
think
direct
that's where you screwed up.
communication.
I think it's always better if a
Why?
mother lets you live under the possibility that she is a mind reader, because that will police you a lot more than your behavior. Your mother has
Well,
to. You have to believe
sure.
your mother has eyes in the back of her head and knows what you're
I
thinking and
mean,
could just go like
sometimes.
this, and you're like, oh shit, she knows. That's got.
I
Yeah,
mean, there are times,
yeah,
yes. But
right.
what I'm sa what
I'm
I'm
kidding, but.
saying and w I know, but one of the things that I taught my sons when they were very
Mhm.
young is that I would rather hear the ugliest truth than the most beautiful lie, because when the truth comes out, if you've lied to someone, that hurts them, your
Mhm.
explanation of why you did it will make them trust you less the next time you tell them something. So and it's always better, and most of the time the truth is something someone's not going to like.
Right.
There's not, right? There's not a lot of joy in a lot of universal truths, but what it does is it teaches you how to accept the truth and then live with it and make your way in the world despite it.
Well, I would. Okay,
And
so I'll interrupt in that moment
like,
because cheery as I
okay,
am, I will say that there is a lot of joy in universal truths. There's in that reality, and I
I'm
would
not
say that gravity
again,
is
I'm
the
not making
gra-
blanket
No,
statements.
I'm saying the gravity that makes you fall off a cliff is also the thing that allows you to fly. Because without gravity, there is no flight. There is no
Right.
expression of flight. You just float away. So
But here's
yeah.
okay, but my point
Hmm.
is, you say to your child, "How was school today? Everything good? Everything fine?" And they're like, "Yep," because they don't want to talk about it. And then you find out 3 weeks later they're being bullied, or
Hmm.
they did something in class, or they did this, or they didn't bring you a note that you were supposed to. Just let the littlest things can blow up into the biggest things if you let it.
Hmm.
If you just tell the truth and you just communicate, then something that could be ridiculous doesn't have to blow up. And I don't even know where we're going and why we're doing this. We haven't seen each other in a month.
Well, this
Let's
is
just get
what.
caught up as people. Let's
Yeah.
get caught up as you and I. Let's get caught up as Tara and Hal
Yeah.
and what's going on. And I know that you've been through, a thing, and you said you
Hmm.
didn't want to talk about it. And we've been talking about it for 20 minutes already.
Hmm.
So
The
we could
some.
talk about the fuckery of the politics. We could talk about what's been going on in my life
Hmm.
for the last month. We could talk about music. We could
Hmm.
talk about movies and TV. We could talk about books. I wore my Nerd Halen shirt because I
Thank
haven't seen
you.
you in a month.
I know. I appreciate it.
So we could just promote happy shit
Right.
instead of dwelling on unhappy shit. Like, I'm just here. So
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? Because in
I
Flexi, if you want to
Yeah.
talk about stuff.
We have a
We can
bunch of
just
stuff to we have a bunch of stuff to cover, and the one thing that I
right.
don't think is somebody wrote in the chat just now. Truth hurts, and I would disagree. I think truth chafes. So
Well, it depends on who. It depends on what it
yeah,
is, because relating to the
I did too.
world that we
CSL.
live in now,
Yeah.
and the last 10 years, there's a certain segment of this population who has no interest in the truth, regardless of what it is.
Well,
And then there's a certain segment of this population who cares about the truth, regardless of what it is. So, someone's version of the truth, if they like it, that's fine. But if they don't like it, then it's fake news. I don't
well,
particularly cotton to that. So I'd like to remain where the truth lives, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes
well.
people
And
feel.
on that note, I'll see if
Yes.
this should work. Let me see. This guy right here. This where those two
Ha!
trains
I was hoping
collide.
we'd go here.
Yes.
I was hoping we'd this is a great jumping off point, because there's so many layers to this when someone
Yep.
left Marjorie's cake out in the rain,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of layers here, because this is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene who was at the White House before being sworn into office, helping to plot January 6th.
Mhm.
I don't know how many times I've tweeted the video of her on the White House steps going, "We're going to do this and and President Trump, and you better show up and me." And it's all January 6th shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why were you there? And then when she was on trial in Georgia, and they showed her the clip, she's like, "I don't recall doing they're saying that." Like, you
It doesn't.
posted
I don't
that.
care if you recall.
You
Yeah, that's
exactly.
You did
You
it.
posted it. This is what you said.
Yeah.
This is what we
That does not
heard.
work.
This is what we have.
Right, and
Does not
also
work, but it
the
worked
the
for her.
Reagan the Reagan sponge brain defense does not work if the minutes of the meeting or a recording of the meeting are available. You can't go, "Hey, did you discuss this with the vice president?" "I don't recall."
I don't
Well,
recall.
because
Right,
nobody has
right,
tape of it,
so-
nobody can nobody can bullshit you on it. Now, so I want to address this so we're caught up to speed, because a lot of us who drink from the fire hose of news are completely
Right.
aware of what's going on. But the firebrand joined at the hip, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who toured around the country, in support of Donald Trump, ran what came in as the initial MAGA wave, and then because by and large she was a QAnon. She believed that there is a cabal of billionaire pedophiles that run the world and have compromise on a bunch of people, and they are the controllers of the deep state, and the deep state are their foot soldiers, and that only the one and only Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for 25 years, is uniquely suited. Set a pedo to catch a pedo, I guess, is uniquely suited to bring down this thing, because I had no idea they were hanging out or something like that. That's blind spot in their brain. Well, she was in there and started, oddly enough, along with a lot of the other QAnon linked maggots, started asking for the Epstein files, because that's what her entire personality and her sale to her district was. I may not know shit about the economics of my district. I may not know what the driving force of jobs in my district are. I may not even know that peach trees are not native to Georgia. They were brought there because somebody mispronounced pitch trees, and everybody thought there were going to be peaches, and so people started growing them just because the people kept showing up looking for these peaches. So, which is true. And so,
moving to
what-
country. Anyway,
this is a
you say peaches, I
Yeah.
start singing. It's
Peach,
fine.
yeah.
Keep going.
So she, as one of the frontline Trump supporters, got kicked out of the congressional, caucus, the Caucasian caucus, the Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus.
Yeah. The freedom, like they don't charge anything to be a fucking moron in that caucus, and she got kicked out for making the mistake of telling a prettier member of the caucus that she was a bitch on the floor, not for saying it. If it'd been the other way around, Boebert would have gotten a slap on the wrist, because she's materially more attractive than MTG, period. And so that's why they reacted. Seriously, that's why they reacted. One of them could make money as an online hooker, and the other couldn't, apparently. So in theory, allegedly. So
Right, sure.
right? Okay. So fast forward to season 2 of of who of Dallas, where who shot Thomas Crooks or some nonsense, is the plot line that's been running, and Donald Trump back in office to finish the job of getting rid of the pedo cabal that really runs things. That was he was stopped in his tracks from doing it by a stolen election and Democrats who are protecting whatever. Okay. And then July. Yes, I know. It's our plot so far. I feel like an old radio show that was canceled. Like last week on The Bullshitter. So, dun, 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 dun. Boom. Somebody's in your lobby right now.
I only did it for you, Johnny.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
They're so full of shit, their eyes are brown.
Exactly.
Anyways, so fast forward to the Epstein files are really going to come out. Liz Wheeler and all these dumb fucks got called to the Oval Office, not to DOJ headquarters, to the Oval Office to be handed a binder full of, heavily redacted and previously already released Epstein paperwork so that they could go out and wave it for the cameras and be a prop for this guy to protect himself and hide all the real stuff that he's been hiding all the time. So then and they get pissed. MAGA noise starts happening, but you got to get rid of it. The MAGA is building MTG and all these others, siding with Thomas Massey and what the fuck is going on? Why don't we have this stuff? And we'll talk about their belief that apparently Patel had a part in Charlie Kirk's murder and that kind of stuff. That's how paranoia is metastasizing within MAGA. But it's rumbling. We got to handle this, Trump says. We got to handle this. How do we handle this? Blanket denial and move on. So July 17th or whatever the fuck that was, they released this document on the DOJ website. No signatures, nothing to see here. Dude killed himself. No more evidence and no sign of any co-conspirators. And if you listened quietly that night, and I don't know if you did, if you had a window open, you could hear like popcorn popping in an adjacent room, maggot heads exploding all across the land. As they were all going, what the fuck? As they saw this. And it's been bad ever since. And the boiling up about MTG leaving has as much to do with her own realization, because I guess, you can only bullshit yourself so much. Apparently, we've reached the clinical limit. And or she sold this to her constituency that was almost only the reason she's in office. And now that it's not going to happen, and it's abundantly clear that Trump is going to fight this stuff, redact things, hide the stuff because he thinks he can run out the clock, she's just going to leave.
Yeah. With all her money and her pension and her
$20 million that she didn't have when she came in office. Yeah.
Right. The PPP loan she never paid back, her daddy's money, her business money, all of that stuff. So I've been telling her for, 5 years now that she's never getting her pardon. I mean, I've been telling her for years that the second you stand up to him or turn your back or become no longer useful, you're dead to him. And she's experiencing, what so many of us have experienced, which is getting swarmed by the MAGA bullies because they have no sense of loyalty to anybody except Trump. And so she's finding out but the difference between her finding out and anyone else finding out is she's fine. She's going to be fine unless somebody decides to prosecute her after the fact for whatever she might have done. Her money will protect her. She'll probably never run for office again, but instead even get to be more powerful because she'll get a show on her boyfriend's network where she can spew her propaganda and grift people into being scared and to buy shit like Trump does. Yeah. She's not any different, right? She's not us, right? She's just because of this, she was still trying to stay in his favor even after the Epstein survivors press conference. She was still claiming that she was loyal, that she was still with him and pushing the America First agenda. And now she's saying there's a difference between MAGA and America First. And shut up. She if she ever got her pardon, she would be still, comfortably snuggled up there in his alimentary canal right next to Mike Johnson. So
Yeah.
this is about being opportunistic. She could not care any less about democracy. She cares about her bank account, just like all of them. So she's getting out while the getting is good. She's retiring when she can get her pension. The other Republicans, there's going to be more of a MAGA exit from Congress. But what she's doing, she's an example of the worst of the worst, right? So she has she has multiple faces because she's threatening to read the names of the Epstein from the Epstein files on the House floor, right? She's threatening to read all of the people who have participated because she's seen it. If Bill Clinton was in there, don't you think she would have done something already?
Well, that's okay.
Don't you think there was huge Democrats in there or someone worse than Prince Andrew? She would have done it already.
Well, the problem,
that's where and
here's
there's
why.
more
No,
to it.
I'll tell you why.
Than this.
I'll tell you why. Because the only situation where there's a witness to what happened, if let's say Bill Clinton was involved in something, more than likely, because he didn't have Epstein didn't have control over Clinton while he was in office, and after he was in office, it was only to get to other people. So you don't. It's hard to blackmail people to say, introduce me to this person, so that I can do business with them. That doesn't quite work. I guess it could, but as a strategy, it's usually not what happens. You want to control the direct lines of power. So you give them favors that they like, which would mean access to women who are over the age of 18, who aren't getting you in trouble, but you like that kind of stuff. But the problem that Marjorie Taylor Greene has in terms of what you're talking about is that the only witness that isn't dead in the case of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail right now, and the belief is you would say anything just verbatim to help Trump. The only witnesses to that if it happened indeed, is the girls that were involved, who more than likely in a lot of cases were sent back to Eastern Europe or moved on or are too afraid to come out, that kind of thing, which we haven't seen any, if they exist. I'm saying if they exist. The only other witness would be Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, as his running buddy, was an eyewitness to a lot of this stuff. Trump is a material witness to Epstein's compromat system and the stuff that happened. He was there was this thing about how Trump used to come to these kind of like orgy-ish things that Epstein would throw both at his house in New York and in West Palm Beach. And that Trump would just kind of wander around in a suit alone, fully clothed, while other people were kind of, having this bacchanal situation. Until he found somebody that, he was interested in or something, he'd get blown and then run out the door. That was the story from Epstein's side. I think Michael Wolff wrote about that, I'm thinking. But
what you're saying is almost entirely true, but a piece of this puzzle that more people need to know about, because they don't, is that there are still Epstein henchmen still alive who witnessed these things and participated. And I know this because my Senator Ron Wyden is the ranking Democrat on Senate Finance and has been following the money for years, has been investigating the financial ties between Russian banks and American banks financing the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking ring. Is basically like a money laundering enterprise that also moved young girls through the world and through these places, and were flown on his plane and were on the island. And we saw the videos and that photo with the chair and the masks on the wall. That, to me, when I saw that photo, it chilled me in a way that it's like unspeakable what you can. And it was some real like Ryan Murphy shit, It was some real American Horror Story, like the masks on the wall and knowing what possibly could have gone. All of it is fucking disgusting. But what's really even more abhorrent about all of this is that right now, the Treasury Department has its own set of Epstein files, and Scott Bessent won't give Senate Finance full access, not the Republicans and not the Democrats either. They're sitting there full of all of this financial information. If you don't want to believe that that Trump raped little girls or did all of that nasty because your brain doesn't want to believe that, you got to follow the money because that shit is beyond real. And all of it touches Trump because there are 4,725 wire transfers that the Trump administration declined to investigate. So they're aware of it. You can't say that they're not. And so focus on that. Focus on what is really real instead of the things that are getting, blown up because they're gross, they're titillating, they're sick, they're weird, they're twisted. The shit that Marjorie is talking about is valid and real.
Yeah.
But she's also complicit in helping cover up so much other shit too. So she's not absolved for doing this.
Yeah,
Nancy Mace is certainly not absolved either.
No.
Nancy Mace stood with the Epstein survivors and then immediately went back and stood with Trump.
Yeah.
So you really, and again, nobody should get a cookie or maybe a really scary looking participation trophy that looks like demons are dragging the earth down to hell.
Right.
Because one time they said one thing that we agree with. You want to agree with them on stuff that matters? Great. Do not absolve them of the other shit. Because
I don't think. Well, okay.
Go down
so let me address that.
Let
me address that in a way that I think the audience can start to absorb. That you do not have to accept a person to accept that person's true statements ever. You know what I mean? It shouldn't even have to come up as a piece of work or whatever. Somebody says that it's noon. If Hitler says it's noon, it's not an attack on what time of the day it is. And your ability to recognize what time it is. And the same thing is true in these circumstances. And in the case of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is leaving and covering her ass or what have you, or just, she might just be leaving the blast site before shit hits the fan. She might have, in her position as a congressperson with the maggots that she's close to, recognized that there is a breaking point that's happening, both in his polling and internally in the Republican Party, where they're like, this motherfucker, his brain is turning to jello. I've got Dr. Adam James on after you today, and he's, been talking a lot about how, about Trump's brain turning to tapioca, my term, but still.
I mean, it's
right. So
falling
obvious.
asleep is just, where,
well, okay.
Jesus Christ.
But let's stay on this for a second. There seems to be this thing when somebody turns on an issue that somehow the reaction is, but I'm not going to forgive them for the other stuff. And this is not about you. This is about, I hear this conversation from everybody in this because there's an idea that the person and the idea go hand in hand. And I would argue that just because someone and I have a point of agreement, most serial killers and I have a point of agreement about stoplights because they want to get to their victim without being sideswiped by a car. And I don't want to kill someone on a bicycle. That does not mean there is a crisscross, and suddenly I'm like, does that mean I like, John Gacy? Right, you know what I mean? That's ridiculous. So we do this all the time to ourselves. And the same thing happened. Same thing happened during the government shutdown and the debate part of it. What ultimately happened when we stood back and just let the truth percolate, what happened was, all sorts of Republicans, from Josh Hawley and all these other, Tom Cotton, I'm just going to name everybody in the Republican Party currently who looks like Ichabod Crane.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. They all started talking about, oh my God, snap. So many people, so many families, so many people, so many families rely on this government program. We can't, oh my God, we can't, like, motherfucker, welcome to sounding like a Democrat. We got you. Walk that shit back, motherfucker. The next time you go home to your district, explain to your maggot constituents whose heads are exploding because suddenly you're on the side of SNAP, that there are actually a lot more members of your district or of your state, in the case of a senator, that are on SNAP than there are dyed-in-the-wool maggots. And so the primary crowd versus the SNAP benefit crowd in red states especially is 10-1. On the SNAP side. And welcome to not being as popular as you think you are. So that's I think in large part what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what she's recognizing is that her wedge, the thing that put her over the top with whoever else Republican was running or any other candidate, was, yes, it's a Republican district, but I'm going to go after the cabal. So the non-voting, normal, rural voters who would vote in who just never vote. They're too busy prepping for the end of the world to vote. came out of the woodwork to vote for her and gave her a margin that made her look more powerful. Oh my God, she's got the standard Republican vote. And oh my God, she brought out this 8 to 10% of other voters that like show her to be powerful, which is why she was able to raise money, because they looked at her statistic for her district and went, oh my God, they must love her. No. They're expecting a certain behavior from her. She was expecting to be able to carry it out, especially with the Epstein stuff. And that's all scuttled now. And what she's staring down the barrel of is you could very well have a Democrat in that seat if she stays in there and another Republican is afraid to run against her because she's the Marjorie Taylor Greene and they don't have the name recognition for this. And they just have to like, and there's a big part right now in maggotdom on all these shows. I'm sure you've seen the crisscross of this, like between, Candace Owens and Crowder and Fuentes and Ian Carroll and Beck and all these people. They're all infighting about shit. And a lot of it has to do with this fool me once, you can't be fooled again. They have this fool me once feeling about Trump, Patel, Bondi, Bongholio, and arguably Besant and Nutlick. The affordability hoax, all that kind of stuff. So that there is enough of those fuckers that are like, fuck this, I'm out, that it will directly affect the midterms no matter what they do, hence the redistricting fight.
Right. So, well, I mean, we've talked about this on previous shows, but MAGA will remain cult-like while the lies comfort them. But as soon as they start getting hurt by Trump's lies, that's when they're turning their backs.
Exactly.
And we're finding that out now because prices are up everywhere on everything. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, like, I don't know how much your Thanksgiving dinners cost out there in Sparks Land, Sparklers, but I made 3 side dishes and bought some other stuff, and it was $75 for 2 bags of groceries in Portland. And that's way higher than what I spent last year. I don't know about it. Prices are higher everywhere.
Yep.
And that's what is always going to hurt MAGA the most. Your health care premiums tripling, your SNAP benefits being taken away from you for a month and a half or whatever it was. So I don't know if I said this on this show or not, but I spent 4 hours one day while the government was shut down going through every single state and finding out how many of their constituents were on SNAP. And then I tweeted every screenshot and tagged all of the Republicans who represented that state. So, and it's helpful when you have those statistics because numbers don't have feelings and they aren't political. They're just numbers. And so you could say to a Mike Johnson and a Clay Higgins, there are 850,000 people in Louisiana on SNAP and they don't care about this game you're playing with the Epstein files. They care about feeding their families. For me, it was specific for Representative Cliff Pence. He's the Republican representing Oregon's 2nd District. So I tweeted him and said there are 757,000 Oregonians on SNAP. And what do you tell them? What do you tell your constituents? Why are the Epstein files more important than my next meal? Which is basically the whole line of questioning around that. And you continue to frame it like that. MAGA people got to eat. MAGA people need a roof over their heads. MAGA people got to go to the doctor. MAGA people got to put gas in the car. What they're learning is that this wasn't only going to hurt the libs. You can't own the libs when you can't even own a home anymore because of housing prices and everything else going up. And so it is the finding out that we have been predicting for a while, and all of it is coming from all different directions. His ratings are historically low. Even with his own voting base. He is now not going to build a ballroom. He's just going to leave the destruction and the detritus because, oh no, you can't build things for the White House with grifted illegal donations, and he's being sued over that. Everything he does fails. Everything Trump touches dies. MAGA is learning this only now. And so the Republican exodus, they're going to try to get out before the next impeachment can happen, so that they're not all caught up in it. Are they going to get prosecuted after the fact? Probably not. But it is really time for all of the truth and for us to be louder and louder because they are so desperate and so scared. And this is when they're the most dangerous. Trump is cornered. He's scared. He's dying in front of us. Sundowning on the daily. His circadian rhythms are fully fucked up when it comes to dementia. I'm sure your guest who's following me will be able to talk about this. There's several accounts that I follow on Instagram. There's one was like a caregiver for people with dementia, and he makes these videos about dementia and behavior regarding dementia and signs of dementia. One of them is your circadian rhythms get all switched around. And that's why he's up all night rage tweeting 150 posts a night.
Yeah.
And why he's falling asleep during the day. Up is down, down is up, day is night, night is day. He didn't know where he is. That's why they had to put the sign on the West Wing
Right.
on the wall, so Paw knows which room to go in his memory care facility. So they're all seeing it. There's no hiding it anymore.
Right.
Right. And so that's why the truth about what's happening matters, but it is also really, really, really important for whoever's still left in the media.
Right.
I don't care what he says. I don't care what he does. You need to be pushing back. There's a meme that's circulating right now, and it's not true, but it's a quote attributed to Megan Casella, who is the woman from the journalist from CNBC who originally asked Trump about Taco.
Yes.
The Wall Street.
Right.
And that embarrassed him, and it stuck, and he doesn't like it. There's a meme circulating attributing a quote to her saying to him that she doesn't ask for permission. She asks questions not for permission. Mm-hmm. Now, it turns out that's not it may or may not be true. I've seen videos of people talking about it, but I have not been able to find footage of it. So what I'm doing now is I'm using it as a teaching moment, a learning moment for both our side and the other side. I know that they can't be taught, but it is a lesson. There's a lesson, as a dual lesson here is, first of all, this is how MAGA operates. They put something out in the world and they demand that it's true.
Right.
Until they can be proven otherwise.
Yeah.
For me, in this particular situation, my pinned tweet now says, okay, so people are saying this isn't true. This isn't but it should be. This should be what all the media should be doing. So let's keep sharing this so that it is wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment of, you're in front of him, make him answer a fucking question. Right. If he bullies you, push back. The man is a doddering, senile old coot. Knock him over with the truth. I don't give a shit anymore. We have to stop worrying about someone's going to say something mean. Oh, no. Big fucking deal. Have a spine. He is so in the wrong in so many ways on so many different things. You can barrage him with it. He hates all of it. Weaken him with the truth. That's what we should have been doing all along. If I had a job right now in the media, if anybody was, and by the way, it's been 2 months since my podcast was canceled and I've not been able to get another job in the media. No one's paying me to tell the truth. I'm doing it all on my own. I'll keep doing it. Because that's what matters to me, whether I'm being paid to tell the truth or not, whether, I'm scraping by with, whatever help I can get from people, whether you sign up for the Substack. Like, I don't want to bet people, your audience doesn't like that I talk about my book or talk about Substack or talk about how hard it is to make a living as an independent, truthful voice. Or
that's because they watch me. But that's because they watch me do it every day. Because I'm not in a network. I'm not on, Midas or any of these others. And I've always said that this thing is like, doing this show has been like building a race car during the race, as you push it down the track. It's just always how you do it.
In the rain.
Always improving.
Going backwards downhill.
I don't even know. I don't even have to exaggerate the reality of it. It's like running as a jogger next to, F1s, which would be your, legacy media and the big networks online, and running to catch up with and compete with them in the crowd and then get ahead of the pack and then stand out because of your value and all that kind of stuff. And that's just what I've been trying to do the entirety of this time. And that's, I think, singularly why this went from like a hobby to a thing, I would say. Let me address something though in this clip, because I've had this up a little bit and this is Trump's.
Yes, you have. This
is Trump's statement about Marjorie Taylor Greene, where you'll recall he said something about grass turns brown when it's dying or something like that. And so anyways, the next version of it is, the only reason Marjorie Taylor Greene turns brown under stress, which is weird. Like, that's because it doesn't actually die. One of the things that anybody who owns a golf course will know is that when the grass turns brown, it's not actually dying. The grass is still alive. It's the leaves of the grass, above the ground that die, and then the seeds are still there, and it grows again next season. It's out of season, it turns brown, or if it's too hot or some shit like that. He's just fucking dumb. Anyways, went bad. The only reason she went bad is that she was jilted by the president of the United States, which is of course a dating reference.
That's a sick. Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, certainly not the first time she's been jilted, which I think is.
Ooh.
And I also think, didn't she fuck around on her husband and basically cuck him and then leave? And I don't know that it was.
Oh,
it's not
she
like,
sure did. She fucked around with all the guys at her gym and her tantric sex guru.
Yeah, I think she did the jilting, right? She was not the jiltee, she was the jilter.
Who knows? Well, and she also, but maybe he's referring to, maybe she came on to him and he rejected her, or she came on to someone else in MAGA at a party and he found out about it, or
she's
maybe
drunk at Mar-a-Lago and.
Maybe she said to Matt Gaetz, "Hey, try a woman who's over 16 for a change," or who fucking knows? They're all so fucking disgusting. Also, Trump is delusional and doesn't know what words mean.
There is that. Okay, so Trump wrote too much work, not enough time, and her ideas are now really bad. Okay, first of all, her ideas politically that he might disagree with in theory are the same as Mamdani's in terms of people need help because prices are up. Honestly, they're very much in the same fucking ballpark. There's an overlap especially in the far right maggotdom, as they come to realize that blue states pay their fucking electric bill, that something's got to be done, or their state will collapse. They won't have anything they'll have a bunch of shit they can't sell because they don't have anybody to sell it to. And they know this, and they need help to do this, and they're always looking for a government handout to do it. And so there's this overlap of like Trump starting to warm up to this idea. So it's where it comes from. So what he means by, the only thing I can think of that her ideas now are really bad is that the Epstein files need to come out. Is that she's siding with Massey that there needs to be this, this unexpurgated release of these things. So the next part was, anyways, this part of it is not going away. And there is there's a big fight going on in the allegedly America First crowd, where there's obvious bifurcations in it, like Tucker Carlson recently bought property in Qatar. We'll wait to see, but probably bought or was given property in Russia for his little show that he gave over there. So he holds Russian deeds to lands, but it doesn't apply over here, so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it or any of that shit or make people aware of it. But that's what he's doing. He's doing these propaganda deals with some of these groups. And there was a big bunch of right-wing influencers that went over, and then he went over afterward and went with his hand out, like, where's mine? And then bought a property there. There is a foreign countries first, or foreign enemies first balloon bubble about to burst in the right-wing magosphere, along with these people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have feel suckered by the whole Epstein QAnon affair, are afraid. They're like, I'll only look so dumb, seems to be the breaking point. But Trump wrote, she sort of reminds me of a rotten apple. Marjorie is not America First or MAGA because nobody could have changed her views so fast, and her new views are those of a very dumb person. Like, he's running out of words. This is, by the way, the guy who was got credit for coming up with Little Marco, which he didn't, and America First, which he didn't, and MAGA, which he didn't, or you're fired, which he fucking didn't. That was, he didn't make up any of it.
Never has done anything. Nothing original. Yeah. Nothing.
Right. And he called her, he called Leslie Stahl washed up and Trump hating, of course, because that's any woman who, can see him. It must be a hater.
He loves a scapegoat. He loves to scapegoat women as a distraction from what he's done. If he can't be a black woman, then any other woman will do.
Right.
So and this is also a thing that I was going to touch on earlier. The way MAGA is behaving towards Marjorie. If Trump tweeted today, "Marjorie and I made up. She's great. We love her." MAGA would be like, "Welcome back, Marjorie. We love you too." So
Well,
this is such a
I agree.
subjective
Wait. I don't
situation.
think so. I think that is a habitual belief on our side of the aisle that's predicated on this myth that he is this master of media, and that is a form of, I believe, complying in advance. Because the belief that they'll just follow him no matter what he does is one of the reasons why the people that aren't like us don't attack him in the media and that kind of stuff, because there's this illusion of an impenetrable wall. What's the fucking point? We know this side hates him and they're never going to like him, and we know this side loves him and is never going to change. Well, the reality is that side that likes him is changing right now. They're by a lot. His popularity numbers amongst them, their outrage amongst themselves. There's a shit ton of MAGA Civil War talk because of him, because of shit like he said after that letter came out. I don't need your fucking support. Basically, like you're stupid. I don't care if you voted for me. If you want these Epstein files, you're a traitor to America or something. Like, he reacted that way, and those people, which allegedly, according to the mythology that we've all been, spoon-fed for the last fucking decade, is that, well, it won't matter because once he says that, all bets are off and everybody gets back in line. Well, they fucking didn't. They did not. And they've been out of line ever since. And they're starting to scatter, and they're starting to form little groups. And in that scattering in little groups, there's some weird shit happening. Like, Nick Fuentes and other talking about why the government should provide health care. Like, that's so hilarious. If you hold it up to MAGA likes him, and no matter what he does, they'll fucking, if the only source of oxygen comes via his farts, they will take it.
Yeah.
And it's not true. It is no longer true. The other thing, too, I would like to say is when it comes to Trump and attacking women, there's a regular thing about, will Trump attack, women? He'll like any woman who goes against him or is insufficiently loyal or whatever, he's going to attack them. Well, there are a couple of women he never goes after. He'll dismiss some women. He'll bring them up and then never kind of like dance around it. He'll suck up to them. As much as they're sexually ingratiating to him, he will favor them and then not favor them. Laura Loomer being the main one, who allegedly, during the campaign, told several people that she gave him the fellatio of his life. And again, allegedly. And that's why he keeps her around. And she did it on purpose to lock him in, whatever. Yeah, hideous. It may not be true. It may be an apocryphal story. But the irony is, if it was spread apocryphally, if it was a lie that was spread, it was spread by Republicans trying to attack Laura Loomer. That's the irony. It wasn't Democrats that made that story up. Okay, but there are 4 particular women that I would like to bring up that Donald Trump never seems to go after, never seems to bring up, that are very important and germane to the stories that we're all dealing with right now.
Okay. I'm going to try to guess them in my head before you say them.
Nadia Marchenko, Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, and I think the most famous is Sarah Kellen. Sarah Kellen. These are the 4 women that were named in Suits that were the second in line to Ghislaine Maxwell and were around just as much as she was. Beyond wishing Ghislaine Maxwell well, he will never allow for the utterance of the name Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, Adriana Ross, and Marchenko, Nadia Marchenko.
That's interesting.
And there are 3 others, by the way. Yeah. I have them listed here. The 3 others. Kimberly Espinoza, Rosalind Fontanilla, and the Farmer girls, Maria and Annie Farmer, who probably are the second most well-known because they've been brought up a lot recently. And they were the ones who reported what it was going on. They told on him, but they were also working for him. He was like, this is when he was like recruiting local like poor white trash to do his dirty work for him. That's what you do in those areas of
Mm-hmm.
the world. Again, by the way, if Trump kicked Epstein out because he went after the daughter of one of his rich friends, fuck him, because he was totally fine with him going after the poor kids and the high schools in the area. It didn't bother him one bit. So that story, even though it has fallen apart amongst them, anytime Glenn Beck would throw that around, it would piss me off. But Sarah Kellen, now that, and this is why Ghislaine Maxwell was able to be charged and put in jail in the first place, it's because a judge said that idea that co-conspirators could not be charged and no one would go after from that sweetheart deal didn't mean that applied to other states. Florida still couldn't go after Ghislaine Maxwell because that thing held, but New York could go after her, and the federal government could go after her. It did not hold the federal government, even though it was a federal seat that did it. So she got charged and she went to jail under the Biden administration, and she stayed alive in prison so that if some point she wants to spill the beans, she's still alive to do it. She didn't accidentally slip and fall on a bar of soap and end up strangled. So
Right.
the other thing is that change in law that allowed her to be prosecuted allows Sarah Kellen to be prosecuted, allows Leslie Groff to be prosecuted, and the rest of them.
Right.
And that is going to be the next phase, I think, is that a Democrat, whether it's Ron Wyden or somebody else, needs to subpoena Sarah Kellen. That has
All right.
to
Well,
be...
the next time I get together with Ron
Yes.
loves me, by the way.
I can't see why not.
Ron Wyden is a mensch.
Yeah.
And he has the most wonderful people working for him.
Yeah.
And we had a nosh last month. We got together. We had a nosh. We did some talking. We did some discussing of things. It's an evolving, eternally growing discussion. But two things I want people to know about Ron Wyden before we wrap. Number one, Ron Wyden wants Benjamin Netanyahu removed from office.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to know that because I get a lot of shit.
Me too.
Because I support him, and there's no and don't. And numero dos, it's something I learned, is that just AIPAC is not happy with Ron Wyden right now. They're very not happy because he's not listening to them.
Yeah.
So I can't make someone not take money, but what I can say is I'm glad you're not listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron Wyden will not stop with this Epstein Files thing.
Right.
Especially because he's following the money. And because he is focused on on things that are real and less salacious, those things are not getting the same level of attention. And it's still weird to me that more people don't know about Treasury's own Epstein Files. And it's also weird to me that nobody asks Scott Bessent, why would you stay loyal to Donald Trump when he doesn't think your marriage to a man is real? Mm-hmm. And also, why are you helping him why are you protecting him? He raped children. It's also been posited that he raped little boys as well as little girls, and Scott Bessent has 2 sons. So, none of it makes sense. It's all of that disconnect. But what people can count on is that Democrats are not going to give up on this, regardless of whether they're in the majority or not. There's going to be action on this, and it's not going to stop with the release that's coming out on the 19th. There will be more after that. There will be the stuff from what they have at Treasury. Then there's, what does Putin have? What is,
right.
There's more and more and more. So Kash Patel could sit down and try to redact all of them himself with the biggest, fattest Sharpie. There's plenty of shit that they can't hide because it's going to come out. And so as we move forward through the next week, just remember everything, like the Venezuelan stuff, the Caribbean stuff. It's awful. It's impeachable, all of that. But again, another distraction from Epstein. They don't care who dies. They don't care who's threatened. They don't care about violence. They don't care about the truth. They care about protecting Trump. So just, one of the things that I saw last week, our compadre Stephanie Miller was on Fox. And regardless of what she was asked, her answer was, well, what's interesting about that is that Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files.
Right.
I'd like to see... Right. And so one of the things that my senator and I spoke about was more Democratic surrogates on more different kinds of platforms, always telling the truth. Right. As long as there's a Scott Jennings on CNN, there should be a Democratic version of a Scott Jennings, which is like, I'm going to be louder than you, but with the truth. And so that's something that Democrats are going to need to focus on. And next week, when I'm back with you, we can maybe talk about strategizing and whatnot. But for 2026, unifying messages will be easy to come by because Mog keeps handing them to us. So I want people to
Yeah.
remember that Epstein is going to be a gift that keeps on giving to Democrats, as
Right.
well as multiple other things. So anyway, I'm glad you're back with me, and I'm
yes.
glad I'm back with you. And let's not make it another month before I come back. Let's make it just another week.
I insist. That would be
Shall
lovely.
we?
So tell next time
Okay.
you see Ron
Hey,
Wyden or you
everybody.
talk to anybody from his team,
Yes.
tell them they
Yes.
need to subpoena Sarah Kellen, and they've got to do it.
Okay.
She could speak if they want to talk to her behind closed doors first or whatever. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But they need they need to let people know they are subpoenaing him or subpoenaing her or attempting to if the Republicans try to stop them.
All right. Well, someone in the chat just said, "Yes, Tara, we know you do some disgusting things. Sorry, you said you discussed some."
No, you misspoke.
Whatever.
You said disgusting instead of discussing. It's okay. They're joking. They're kidding.
Maybe I was also saying disgusting. I don't know.
No,
Whatever. I don't know.
You said you were discussing things with Ron Wyden. That was
did I? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't.
They're just
I didn't
kidding
mean to,
around.
But anyway,
I do not have a hostile chat.
Hanukkah
This is the thing. You spend too much time on shitter, and it affects how you read my chat.
I saw it. That's the last thing I saw. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
It does.
And
it's okay.
I'll see you guys on places where I am, but particularly Substack, please.
Right. Excellent.
And also someone in the chat asked about my book, and an agent is reading it right now.
Great. Fingers crossed. Let's do this.
That's one good thing I'm working on.
Beautiful.
I don't want to tell anybody else about the other good things I'm working on. I don't want to make it Kanahura. But anyway, Hanukkah's next week, so
Happy Hanukkah.
We'll celebrate that, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Awesome.
Be good to each other.
There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. Author of The Sound of Settling. Go to taradublinrocks.com to get her book. Next up is Dr. Adam James, and I'm waiting for him to come into the chat room. I don't see him, or into the window. He's coming. He's finishing up with a patient. Excellent. Okay, that's totally fine. It's good for me to hang with you guys, and I'll bring the chat in if I may. On this, I accidentally cut my finger while I was talking earlier on something. That's I'm bleeding, but I'm fine. So just chalk it up with other stuff that's going on. Do you hear that ICE lost a little boy? Okay. ICE didn't lose a little boy. We did. The U.S. citizens, and specifically voters that did not turn out and left Trump in charge. I know a lot of people like to walk around with the fuck ICE and all that kind of stuff. It's a cheap shot, it's weak, and it misses the point. ICE is a hammer. It is a tool. If it is managed well, it does the job it's supposed to do. If kind and thoughtful and empathetic and smart people are running it, then the missions they will be sent on will be reflective of that. Even if the people in ICE would rather do something, it is up to the leadership to point them in that direction. And so anybody who's walking around saying fuck ICE, whether they want to admit it or not, is saying fuck the voters that didn't vote last time or voted for Trump, and anybody who stood down or was namby-pamby soft-selling, well, it's the lesser of two evils and yada yada. Ah, here he is. There he is, joining in here and bringing him. There he is. Excellent. I'll bring in Dr. Adam James in just one moment. You can hear me okay, though?
Yeah, I got you.
Excellent. Okay, let me bring in here. Ladies and gentlemen, now joining me on the show, Dr. Adam James, who, here we go. There we go. Hey, there you are. Welcome. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here. I appreciate you being on. There is so much to talk about. It is a little difficult to kind of even know where to begin with the conversation about Trump's decline and the like. But welcome to the show. And if you want, I'll remind you, you have the title of your YouTube channel If you have it, I don't know that I have it written here, so I wanted to make sure we got you there. But anyways, you're a DPT graduate of Medical College of Georgia, 14 years experience in geriatric home health care, which is my mom worked in home health care. She's a nurse, and
Wow.
yeah, and worked for home health services in the state of Kentucky. So she went around to all of them and helped make sure they weren't beating up the patients or putting cigarettes out on them and stuff like that. And so in talking about brain fade, one of the things, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. My dad, I just went through. My dad passed away from kidney disease, and when he was in hospice care, he decided to go off dialysis, and I was with him during the last month when he started going through that, shutting down, and I was there when he passed, and he was always there. He was trapped in while he was during this. There were times when he couldn't communicate what was going on with him, but it wasn't because his brain wasn't functioning. It was because he just couldn't get the words out. I have another elder relative that shall go unnamed, but is from a cousin of a cousin that was there and came by to see and visit and pay their respects and that kind of stuff, and was talking about how they noticed because they watch. I guess I'm the family member they all secretly watch in the red states. They watch my show and they on the download, and they're like, I see the same look in Trump's face that I see in my dad's face, and it's a very distinct look. This kind of like half-eyed, middle distance, slack-jawed look that comes upon him. That's for real. That's like and it points to the end of a runway. This is not something that gets turned around.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about like especially in his recent behavior, or maybe the earliest you started spotting it. What was the first part where you were like, okay, this, old guys forget stuff. You forget what you're doing when you're walking into a room, but big deal. And like, uh-oh, that's something. What would that be? Dr. Adam James.
So the first thing that really caught my attention for him was the degree of swelling in his ankles and feet. As soon as I actually saw still shots of that, I said, this guy has heart failure. It's either some combination of heart failure or kidney disease. And then I started paying, again, I see tons of heart failure patients all the time. The question is, which of my patients don't have heart failure? It's not if they do. So I saw that. And then all the cognitive stuff, I started kind of going down the rabbit hole. And then recently, he's just had, almost daily, there's footage of him doing something that makes he looks exactly like the patients that I go see. I just saw a patient today. His daughter and son-in-law have moved in with he and his wife. He's 79 years old. He's the exact same age as the president. And he was hospitalized with pneumonia. And I walk in and he goes, I know he's on donepezil, which is a dementia medication. And he says, I had the flu. And his daughter immediately from right behind him on the living room couch says, no, Dad, you had pneumonia. Just that confidently said something that was not true. And he's got his family living with him to provide assistance to he and his wife. And the president of the United States is that guy.
So I noticed something. I became what we often call a low information voter when I was home dealing with this, because I really did have, by and large, as much as I could, a media blackout when I was doing this. But occasionally you need to step aside and distract yourself for your own mental health and stuff. And unfortunately right now, you can only distract yourself for your mental health with more craziness. And one of the things that we'd seen this stuff with his ankles. My father, as he'd been on dialysis for 6 years, and he had swelling in his ankles occasionally because of it, but the dialysis took care of it a lot, for the most part, right? But once he stopped, it started to balloon. And when I showed up, his feet were really puffy, and it was hard for him to walk, even with his walker. And so I just sat down like I was putting toothpaste, out of a tube, and just massaged his feet until they looked like feet again. And I
Did you
did that.
really?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Because he was still able to get up and stuff, but his feet hurt so bad that I was just like, because you can do it. You can massage the feet and keep the flow
Yes, you
going.
can.
You have to elevate
Yes.
their feet to make sure that gravity is helping you as much as you possibly can. And then if the veins won't do their job because the pressure isn't there, you can physically do it. And so
Yeah.
I'm very proud to say within like a day, his feet looked really normal. And they would, I would do, just every day I would do a little bit of maintenance on it just to make sure his
Wow.
ankles were okay and that kind of stuff. But man, anybody who's had like a really bad like long-term sports injury, beg your pardon, or a hematoma or something like that just got stuck around and get some swollen tissue around it. You know that thing where you can put your thumb into it and it stays there? You make an impression. That's what it feels
Yes.
like. But it's massive, right? When I was first working on it. And they looked exactly like Trump's looked. And the difference
There you go.
between him and them, and this goes to your patient who's got family, right, with, taking care of them. Nobody is massaging Trump's ankles every day because he won't admit that there is anything wrong with them in the first place. And that means that
Exactly.
that pooling is going to exaggerate. It's like death by yes man.
Exactly. That's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I got to say, man, listen, in home health care, I mean, you know this from your mom's work experience.
Yes.
We walk into some absolutely gnarly situations.
Yes.
And sometimes the caregiving situation is stuff that makes us worry after hours.
Yes.
And the idea that this is just to commend you, the idea that you would manually try to get rid of that pitting edema is what we call it, when you can push a thumb or a fingertip into it and it sticks.
Yeah.
The idea that you would do that is simply an indication of how great of a caregiver you were to your dad. We wish we had that kind of attention to all the patients we see from their family, but sadly, many times that's not the case. But
well, it's a credit to my dad and how he was as a dad. And I think a lot of people, maybe if they didn't have that, the drive to do it isn't there. But why I'm doing it had as much to do with the son that he raised. He goes, he at one point, he would say like, I'm so lucky that you're here or whatever. I'm like, well, way to think ahead. Is what I kept joking with him about, you made a good kid just for this moment, and I'm here. It's all I got you. And
there you go.
Yeah. So, so what I will say though, that my dad had an army of people coming by and telling him how much they loved him, and it was like in direct contrast to the fake version that Trump has. Is there,
my God.
So my grandfather died. He had Alzheimer's, and he would be mistaken like this. He would have these blurts of, he would say stuff, names wrong, and that kind of stuff. And at a certain point, my dad, he'd call my dad by my uncle's name and vice versa and all that stuff, which happens with people anyways, even if they're just their brains getting ahead, of their lips or whatever. But at one point, my dad was kind of like forcefully kind of like, no, Dad, I'm Harry. That's Philip, And I took my dad aside and I was like, he's not able to process what you're telling him. You just need to nod and let him enjoy it. You're not going to fix it. So better for him to just not stress that he's getting stuff wrong and let it happen. He's not going to hurt anybody. He's not driving a car anymore. He's in a bed. He's not going anywhere. So don't worry about that part. And just go, I'm Philip. I love you. Make up for all the things my uncle hasn't said to him or something. And by the way, I apologize for almost setting the dog on fire, whatever it was. Like, just do that because you're at a window, right? But it calmed him to do that. And I almost feel like these like weird cabinet meetings are orchestrated by Susie Wiles to do the same thing to Trump. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
the sheer amount of elder abuse that we are watching on TV right now. My brain goes immediately to the legal ramifications. Like, would Don Jr. or Eric or Ivanka take legal action if something happens where negligence or malfeasance could be legally proven? You better believe they would throw somebody in court over it. That's where my brain goes.
Right.
You know, just like you're describing, you know, that relative, that's where he's at.
Yeah.
The pictures just came out of one of Jeffrey Epstein's, you know, living rooms with a fireplace or what have you. It looks just like the gold accenting stuff they're putting in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
It's spooky. It's spooky. It's like they're trying to keep a dementia patient comfortable with familiar surroundings.
Yes. Or making him feel like, you know, it's getting better. There's improvement happening around him because he's there. Like, this makes you feel at home, and you're, you know, it's almost like, I don't know, painting a future. Like, oh yeah, isn't this much better? And tomorrow we're doing this. And like, okay, to keep him focused. Now, I know that they're just it seems like at this point, they're just keeping him around to sign, you know, every executive order he could possibly get passed. And because they're not going to pass any meaningful legislation after that big BS bill. So that all he's got to do is executive orders that they can act on until the courts stop him, or the Congress, hoping that neither will. Right. So they just, and he sits there like, it was always dumb, but now he looks like a toddler holding up his boom boom diaper. Like, I made a poopy, and then he puts it back down, right? And they have to tell him what he's signing. That's a big one, huh? I'm doing a big that. And it reminds me of like Knives Out or something like that, where it's the signing of the will. It's like, you know, in those Law and Order episodes where somebody changes the will right before they keel over, and the family's fighting over it because they think they were murdered, you know, because it was so overt. Like, here's the will, sign it. Okay, I'm signing am I signing the thing? Oh, look, I signed the thing. Shh. Okay. Oh, that's our secret.
Yeah.
Like, it
absolutely
every day, and every still picture. That's the other thing. Increasingly, these pictures of Trump, they're not even bothering to hide. They're not looking for the one where he has a moment of lucidity to take the picture. It's just, you know, like half-lidded and like slack-jawed. So, okay. So my thing about this is that there's clearly an end to this runway. And I'm sure the chat has some questions for you as well on this or whatever. But as far as somebody in his situation, and I don't know if he's got kidney disease, he did that MRI. What's your thoughts on two MRIs in a year, by the way? Because he had another one. And they only caught a second one, and he gave out the results, which is just like, it was awesome. That's all they said. Like, that's not the result. That's not releasing the MRI. That's releasing Ronnie Jackson's bullshit.
That's right. Okay. So, and I need to mention just a practical note. My professionally speaking, or academically speaking, I am Dr. Adam James because I've earned a doctorate, but I am not an MD.
Sure.
I just want to make that distinction for people who might be confused. We don't refer to, even the PTs with doctoral level training, we don't refer to ourselves as Dr. So-and-so, so as not to confuse patients, just to make it clear.
Gotcha.
But no, he's had 2 MRIs that we know of this year. Because they are tracking disease progression in his brain, most likely Alzheimer's, dementia.
I'm going to call you Doc Adam because I'm from Kentucky. We call people that. Yeah. Hey, Doc Adam.
That's right. I deliver the babies and cut off the diseased limbs.
That's right. That's right. So, anyways, you say, yeah.
So, he's had multiple MRIs to track the progression of disease in his brain, and the report that they released. First of all, it's just like every other medical report that Trump puts out.
Yeah.
It's the same as the one from 2015 that he dictated himself and he attributed to his primary physician.
Who looked like a puppet.
Told the press,
right.
who later told the press, I didn't write that. He dictated that entire summary himself. And so the latest report we got says nothing about his brain because that's what they scanned. They're tracking the progression of Alzheimer's amyloid plaque formation on the surface of the brain, which is one of the key, if not the key, presenting symptoms for classic Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So, and even further, the bruising that shows up on his, I believe, is it his right hand? I believe.
Yeah.
It's always covered with makeup. They even put 2 Band-Aids on top of it. For God's sake, they're not even trying anymore.
They put makeup on the Band-Aids. Wait, I'll show you.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. At the Kennedy Center thing, it was bizarre. I'll find it. But keep talking. I'll find the picture.
Yeah.
It just
That is the site of the monthly infusion he's getting. It's either monthly or like 10 to 14 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, my daughter is doing online school here at the house.
Never apologize.
Say hello, everyone.
Yeah. Hi. Welcome. She's blurry in the background. Don't worry about it. We can't see her. Yeah.
Oh, there's
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's an infusion site for most likely a drug called, it's either Kisunla or Leqembi, which are drugs that are for early stage symptomatic Alzheimer's disease that fight against the formation of the amyloid plaques.
Right.
The amyloid plaque formation. Oh, there it is. Look at that.
And there's makeup. If you see the angle on it, you can tell that they smeared the makeup to try and blend the Band-Aid to his hand and hope that, I guess he's got so many wrinkles on his hands you won't see the lines from the Band-Aids or some shit like that.
Come on.
But he sits so much. He is like pathologically covering that in all stuff to the point where in his last meeting in the Oval where he was gesturing with his left hand entirely like his arm was useless, and he did one thing like that and then immediately put his hand back down like he forgot, and he was and he knows this is not something that's gonna go away, and he's increasingly aware of this. And not only the fact that I should have put up the nut warning, but I don't have it on the guest thing. Sorry about that, guys. But it's just rough.
You're gonna get demonetized.
Yeah, exactly. Twitch will kick you off for porn. Like it's AI thinks there's a But so this is that's how far it's gone, is that they have just the makeup is not enough, or that he bled in the last time and it wouldn't stop.
That's right.
That's another concern.
That's right. It would indicate he's taking a blood thinner.
Yeah.
Which is an indicator of even further disease, cardiac as well as cardiovascular issues. Also, many people ask, when I point that out in my videos, they ask, well, why not just do it in the antecubital space, the elbow?
Yeah.
And I'm saying it's quite likely because his veins are trash.
Yeah.
He's not in good health. He is not compliant. He brags about how he's never drank alcohol. I'm like, yeah, well, you've done a ton of Coke.
Yeah.
And Adderall.
Right.
Well, who cares?
You did speed instead. I don't care what kind of mild depressants you didn't take. You gacked up on all kinds of other stuff, and you had no idea the volume you were doing. Here's another example.
Yes.
This is him in the White House, I think, earlier in the day when they're going there. That's they replaced the Band-Aids. See how they literally put the makeup over the Band-Aids, it's this dark. It's darker than his skin, but it almost he thinks it matches my face. That's the cue point. But look at his eyes in that picture.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
And that tells me there aren't other options.
Yeah. He looks like a guy who's sundowning.
Yes. And
they
all know it. They all know it. So
They do.
I've often thought that, how does stress exacerbate when someone is going through this part of it? Not just schedule, but emotional stuff and familial work, all that kind of stuff. Does it materially affect it, or is it just a try and avoid it situation?
No, it materially affects it. Increasing levels of stress will accelerate sundowning, accelerate the symptoms of dementia, the worsening of the disease. He does not leave the residential portion of the White House until at least 10 a.m.
Yeah.
10 or 11. Okay. By contrast, George W. Bush was working at 6:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
He was not in the residence. He was in the West Wing handling business.
Yeah.
Before 7 a.m. That's because he was, what was he, in his 50s?
Yeah.
Or 60s, something like that?
Early
he
60s.
Was much younger.
I would say, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And also, he was in good shape. He took decent care of himself. His father played for the baseball team at Yale University way back in the day. They love sports and, whatever.
Yeah.
They were fairly fit people. And Trump is not doing that because he can't. He can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
He's staying up all out. Again, sundowning is when a disconnection from circadian rhythm, typical day-night sleep-wake cycles. He stays up till all hours of the night, posting something like 400 times on Truth Social, for God's sake. That is a man who's sundowning.
Yeah.
I saw a patient recently. This man was a veteran. He clearly had dementia, Alzheimer's dementia. He was not able to live at home anymore. And we see patients all the time that are on that tipping point. They're just about to be placed in a facility, and the family is, trying to figure some stuff out. His wife, he met her overseas. She's a GI bride. I see tons of patients in that situation. She told me, I go to bed at like 9 p.m. and I lock my door so that he cannot get into my bedroom. And that freaked me out because I was like, well, you can't do that because he's going to turn the stove on or something like that. But Trump has the look of people like that.
Yeah.
He's starting to look like it. And they do know it. That's the thing. That's a whole other thing going on, brother. Nobody is saying anything.
Yeah.
And that is, we have the only cultural reference point we have for how to deal with all this as medical professionals would be the Goldwater rule. But the Goldwater rule only applies, it was only created to kind of quote unquote protect the guild of psychologists and psychiatrists.
Right.
It's not made, it was never, constructed to save the American people from the lunacy of a physically inept elected official.
Right.
That's not what it does.
Right.
So some people try to throw that to me in DMs or comments, and I'm like, listen, somebody has to say something, and I guess it's going to be me. I don't know.
Well, you also don't. You're not responsible for not saying what you see, and it is completely reasonable to say if there's another reason for this, it's worse. Here's the thing: if you're saying dude is clearly showing signs of sundowning, his ankles look like fucking balloons, he's double taping Band-Aids on the back of his hand because they're injecting something or taking something out, they're covering it with makeup, and he looks at it and goes, "That looks fine," which is fucking bananas. Right? He does his makeup on, like by slamming his face in some Cheeto dust, and he's got this. It stops right here, like a redneck homecoming queen. He's given up on doing his hair. Yeah. And here's the thing: if it's not dementia, it's something way worse. Like the motherfucker would have to be like microdosing LSD and getting the dose all fucking wrong. He and doing like he'd have to be doing so many massive drugs to be that fucked up. That's the only other answer for it. And so the fact that he's the president of the United States, they have a responsibility to tell us about his health and all those kind of things. They were bitching about it under Biden when he was slow in physical movement and in talking because he had a stutter but his cognitive ability insofar as explaining stuff when he was getting to the point, look at the debate. Like one of the reasons why Biden won the debate with Hispanics, it's because they were watching it translated, not by the voice quality and that kind of stuff. And so Biden's answers were legit, and Trump's were nonsense. And translated, they were reading they got to read what they actually said in the debate. So he won amongst this group. Biden did because they were considering what he said, not how he said it.
Of course.
And again, 7 flights in European and Middle Eastern flights for Biden. That was what he was writing on. And arguably Trump is too. And that would be the stress I'm kind of talking about. So if he's not sundowning, if they're not checking him for Alzheimer's and checking how long he has until his brain completely pancakes, then the answer to his behavior is worse. Right? What would it take to make a healthy man fall asleep in meetings and become
on camera?
Yes, adversarially angry at people and manically tweet till all hours and then fall asleep during meetings that matter, right? You're up tweeting about shit that doesn't matter. You're like grudge matches, like it's a fucking, a dude at a bar that you got into a flame war with it on Twitter in 2004. Or whatever, like he's talking like that. It doesn't mean anything. There's no work being done when he just does that. It's just sales. But he does that all night, and then he falls asleep in the actual meetings. That's a priority problem that comes with, he's either gacked up on so many fucking drugs because he's gotten into RFK's stash, or his brain is turning to tapioca, which I think the sad answer is both.
Yeah, Ronnie Jackson. You mentioned Ronnie Jackson's name earlier. He's known around the White House as the Candyman.
Yeah.
Because it is so easy to get whatever you want from Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson was nominated to run the VA, and his nomination was pulled because all those stories started coming out fast and furious, and they were like, maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of doctor that's hanging. I don't know what Dr. Sean Barbarella, I don't know what his deal is, but he's a fucking liar like the rest of them.
Yeah, totally. Well, and again, I think like Susie Wiles increasingly has become, the minder. Like she's become mom effectively, and she she polices who can see him and when. It's Nancy Reagan all over again. So
is that really her role? Is that what she does now?
She's his chief of staff. Yeah. So she's definitely.
I thought she worked on the campaign.
She did. He tells very proudly she's the first female chief of staff. She's his chief of staff, and she is the one who is arranging the signings and who is going to be present there and who gets to see him and when and what meetings he does have. And she went from. Your chief of staff should be like, I need to do this, I need to do this, and I need to do this, make it happen, to you need to do this, you need to do this, and I'll make it happen. That's what she's doing, and everybody fucking knows it. Right. Everyone.
Okay. Well, I would love to know if Natalie Harp was interviewed by her, because Natalie Harp does everything short of change his underwear.
Yes, absolutely.
She types up all of his social media posts. He dictates stuff. He doesn't type on a phone. He doesn't do that. He doesn't read email.
Yeah.
He has hard copy emails printed out and he writes on the page.
Yeah.
And then someone else replies to that email. He's been doing that for years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm going to float something with you because a lot of attention gets paid to. I tend to not take the first piece of bait that they throw out, especially when it's overt. And after a while, my trust but verify nerve has been worked to its last thread. But the night he posted 160 times, and it was this flurry of things. You probably know this too. Between Harp and Scavino or whatever, they write up a lot of his posts. They put these posts out, and so he'll dictate them, and they'll do them early in the day. A lot of times, he wants people to believe he never sleeps. Like the myth of him never sleeping is very important to MAGA. So it won't be like, oh, this motherfucker, you can't make good decisions when you don't get sleep, you dumb motherfucker. We think like that. But they're like, he's Superman. He never sleeps and never has to, except in meetings and little catnaps, which are adorable. Right. So here's what I think. I don't think he posted 160 fucking times that night. I think they had him at the hospital or getting some kind of a treatment that they were very worried about whether he would be awake tomorrow for a while, and they did it. So instead of just his regular truth socialing, they flooded it. So the news story would be, this motherfucker posted 160 times last night. He's a goddamn machine.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's nuts and manic or whatever. But doing the regular ones, and then he doesn't show up for the first 3 hours of his day after that 10 o'clock window where they had to push stuff, and that would be telling. That was in the, kind of around the days of him, being basically out of sight, out of mind for almost a week.
Mm-hmm. And they still don't have a good explanation.
No, they do not. They just moved right the fuck on. And this is the same thing. The next time they say he was up all night posting, I'm going to go, no, he wasn't. He was in fucking Walter Reed. You guys rolled him over there on a fucking gurney through a tunnel you're digging through the East Wing. Because I swear to God, like, I don't buy anything. Like, I'm going to immediately, if maggots can flip out about how much they're being lied to, so can I. And at this point, I'm like, it is so obvious that they are covering for him that I think anything that stands out as different or extraordinary is a sales pitch now. Even if it seems negative, it's a distraction from what's worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They would do that. They, the core of what they do as the people that run the executive branch is just propaganda. There is no substance to it.
Yeah.
It's strictly what belief can we solidify among our supporters?
Right.
They're never asking themselves, how can we win for the people that support us? How can we help these soybean farmers? How can we,
it's how can
get
we
the
shut
price
them
of
up?
something down?
It's how can we shut them up, or how can they get us to praise me? Shut up or sing my praises, and that's all they care about. That is the measure of success. Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So, maggots are finally breaking away, and I think it's because who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? That there's an element of between the Epstein file stuff and all that I think during the first presidency. I will say this. So people know that I was friends with Patty Davis, Reagan's daughter, when I was very young, and she was much older. And
wow.
Yeah. And we hung out. Anyways, we were hanging out when I was 19. I was 19, and she was 42 or something like that. And we watched Reagan give his final speech at the Republican National Convention that he ever gave for George W. Bush when he was running against Bill Clinton, and when he ultimately lost. But they were like, we got to bring Reagan out to sell him to the people so they reelect him. And his doctor, Reagan's doctor, told him and his family this is going to take a year off his life because the stress of doing this speech. And they didn't listen to anybody. He wasn't, like Patty and Ron were both saying, don't do it. Fuck this guy. But he wanted to do it, and he was afraid that, he was just, he was a trooper, I guess, for his side. But when he came out and did it, he kept going, all right. If you watch the speech, every so often when they're applauding, he says, all right. And the reason he's doing that is because he was afraid if he got off topic, he would never get back. He was terrified.
Oh, my God.
That if he lost his
I've never seen that speech.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, my God.
But you can tell he's like nervous about something. And that nervousness is, if I forget where I am, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying for him. And that stress hastened his death. Also, being shot brought his dementia sooner. Like, he would have had it, but he may have had it half a decade or a decade later than he did. But after he was physically shot, the damage done to his body in 1981 when he was shot sort of brought it sooner. Like, it started that process.
Wow.
So he was in primary dementia halfway through his second term. Sound familiar? And but he was focused on being a grandpa. So what he became was, because his brain, his soul, where he was, his identity as a man was leaning towards, I want to be a grandpa for my kids. And that's where his brain focused on. Trump is not focused on that. Trump is, I have to win or they'll know I've always been a fraud. And so it's anger and bullshit, right? And that's where his brain is and where it's going to stay and metastasize. So during the first term, he really didn't age like other presidents because I think of a lack of empathy. He didn't get stressed by it because he doesn't give a fuck, really.
No, he doesn't.
Unless it happens to him. But when the Epstein stuff happened, when he lost the election, that was embarrassing. He aged more in the 4 years between these terms than he did during his term, which is weird for a president. And now, with the Epstein stuff and people expecting his tariffs to work and them pushing back and going, what the fuck, dude? Around him, the weight of the presidency actually being on his shoulders, mixed with this shit might come out and people will know what the fuck I was up to. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, where the precipitous age is coming from.
Yes.
That's where I think it's speeding it up.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff happening at once that he can't outrun for once in his life.
Yeah, right. Because he built it. He built the car, got out in front of it, and decided to push. Right, and he's going to be run over by his own car downhill.
Yeah, there's no opportunity for him to stiff a contractor and just move on to the next development.
Right.
He's still that guy. He's always been that guy.
Right.
Anybody who was anything in Manhattan in the 80s, they know that Donald Trump's an absolute piece of shit.
Right. It's a joke. Right.
But yeah, the Epstein situation. We're starting to see the recent elections, The special elections on top of the New York mayoral race was an absolute
I thought he was going to blow Mamdani. I joked that his nickname for him was Nom Nom Donnie afterwards because I was like, he's going to suck him off right there. What is happening?
I feel like Susie Wills just said, now listen, you need this guy. I feel like that's what happened, because otherwise he'd be like, oh, another dirty Muslim. Okay.
Right. I don't know. I think he's handsome. There's this weird story about maybe Trump messed with guys too, and that when he was younger, and part of his, his anger and all that stuff is based on either, suppressing gay or bisexual tendencies and hating it and being angry at the world about it. And then they just come out when you're too old to put, I forgot to hide the fact that and so he's weird. He, like, when he talks about certain guys, he likes relatively dark-skinned dudes with beards. He talks about how handsome the MBS is. He talks about how handsome Mamdani is. It's weird. He doesn't like J.D. Vance. It's not his type. He's not tan or orange enough or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, so
there's a bunch of stuff catching up to him, and now the added stress of that is going to cause a progression of disinhibition in particular. He's the frontal lobe holds all of the forbidden words. So the stuff you shouldn't say, and you shouldn't say, the frontal lobe helps you remember, oh yeah, don't say that. Well, he's losing that.
Yes.
That's why he called a woman a pig on camera.
Yep.
It's why he's always been an absolute asshole, but he's going to become more and more apparent, especially when he's not getting his way.
Right.
It was reported earlier today that Mike Johnson cannot remain speaker. He doesn't have the support to remain speaker of the House.
Oh shit.
So that's an act. That is a big move right there. And it's just it's the first, the dominoes are starting to fall.
Well, and so then that comes to the question. This is from where I think your medical experience and your experience in geriatric facilities, I've been around those places as well, because my mom, not only did she work in years checking on that, but she has a singing group that goes around from her church, and they go to old folks' homes and they do little shows for them, and entertain them. And they do like songs from the 30s and 40s, or they do Christmas caroling, and they do that as a group. And it's really lovely. And I've gone with her, and I brought my son multiple times. And there's the cascade of people. There's the inspiringly ambulatory, aware old person that just has, a physical malady or a lack of family, so they're worried they'll fall down, so they've moved in there. To a person who is all but a corpse in a chair, gone. Like their brain, like if they ran an EKG on them, there would be so little activity, but they're still there. They still eat and stand up and like pudding and whatever's happening. But that's the spectrum of people, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the question is, what's the runway look like for somebody in terms of time? Maximum. I said earlier this year, and I was speaking sort of euphemistically at the time, but I was like, by spring, he's going to have a 4-hour cognitive window that they're going to crowbar everything into. And he will have to be completely out of sight the rest of the time, lest the whole thing unravel. I misjudged the time window. I think it's here already, and they're just not admitting it to themselves, and they're realizing they're going to have to do it. But it'll be here before the winter is out. Because the question is his ankles, the drugs that he is on, the regular checking MRI, the every 6 months it seems like because I know we all know whether they've done it and they'll tell us or whether not. January they're going to have him do it again.
That's right. Whether
they admit it or not, it's going to happen, and then it'll be every 3 months. So what does that window look like? What is for someone in his, as far as months to a year? If you were sitting down there and you're like, okay, just looking at what I'm looking at, I've seen a lot of this before. 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half. If you take good care of yourself, if you don't.
Yeah, I say in my videos right now, it's I'm giving it like 3 to 5 months. When honest, because he's not a compliant patient.
Right.
That's the thing. He eats trash.
Yeah.
His diet could be a brand deal with McDonald's.
Yeah.
And the fact that he hasn't done that yet is kind of shocking because he's already sold Teslas on the front lawn of the White House. But
right.
His diet's awful. I think he puts up with medical care because it will keep him in power. It will keep the illusion going. I think that's the only reason he cares at all, to talk to a doctor.
Right.
And that motivation is going to fade as well. The thing is, he's already sundowning.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't think people.
Right.
You're as soon as, again, we got a patient right now he's a Parkinson's patient, and he has Parkinson's related dementia. He has completely flipped days and nights.
Right.
And his poor wife, it was the first time I had seen this patient, and I'm talking to her. The thing that caregivers don't realize is we're looking at them just as closely as.
Yeah.
And I'm asking her, as soon as I find out a patient has cognitive decline, I say, how's he sleeping at night? And I'm looking right at the caregiver.
Yeah.
Because I don't want an answer from the patient.
Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to suss out is, are they sleeping at night at all?
Yes.
If they're not sleeping at night and they're sleeping during the day, like our president is doing on camera, you've already crossed the tipping point to need to place that patient in a facility. When a patient stops sleeping, you're talking about just a few months where that caregiver is going to be run into the ground.
Yeah.
And, this wife, I'm talking to her for the first time, and I'm like, how are you? Do you sleep? She's like, I really don't. And she felt so ashamed to tell me what her day-to-day actually looked like. And I let her know, no, you tell me exactly what happened last night.
Right.
And then the floodgates open. And then she starts to tell me, we'll call him Bob. He said, yeah, Bob thinks there's somebody in his room every night. And he comes to my door and knocks on my door every hour. And he tells me that he sees something and it's not there. And he starts, he's hallucinating.
Right.
He's, people do not understand. We in healthcare, we know that guy's sundowning.
Yeah.
And they are hiding so much. So the 3 to 5 month thing. And again, when I first started putting a time frame on things, because again, in home healthcare, in our agency, in our case, we've got home healthcare on one side of the building. The other side of the building is hospice. We turn patients over to the hospice side with regularity. All right?
Yeah.
Our patients are very ill. So I'm used to getting messages on my tablet in our Teams messages where I find out somebody has died or somebody's been admitted to hospice. It's just not that big a deal to us. We hear it and see it every day.
Yeah.
And so you start to notice the mile markers on the way to the hospice referral.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
When I look at that guy, I'm like, oof, 3 to 5 months, brother.
Yeah. So
and again, I'll say one more thing. I'm used to, again, we don't say these things in a vacuum. You say these things to a family member or to a patient, their natural inclination is, I'm wrong about what I'm saying. Because they want to live. Yeah. Number two, the family does not want to confront the fact that this person they're reaching, headed toward the end of the runway. So we say these things in the resistance to, the hard reality, which you yourself have just experienced in your own life. But I'm telling you, we know it when we see it because we do it every day.
Yeah. So I've, many people that watch the show know that I've done CPR 4 times in public to people who have dropped. So far I have a perfect record of handing off a living person to paramedics. The last guy did not survive with the paramedics, but he had a heartbeat when I handed him over. So what can you do?
Brother.
But and I've seen the look in somebody's face as they're losing control of their body and expressing their last breath, and they're incapable of controlling what's happening to them. And I'm sure you know it as well, but where their eyes go kind of glassy, and then they come back because their heart starts beating again, and then it goes and it's when it's dementia, it's like that moment of someone losing their heart stops and then it starts again, and then you
Yep.
lose them again. It's not steady, or it's too slow, and then it starts to slow down again. You have to keep compressions going on and on until they can either, defib them or something, or give them adrenaline or whatever they're going to do to treat them, the stuff that I don't have at that moment.
Yeah.
But you can watch them come in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like we're watching that over the course of months.
Yes.
That look in his face, and then in and out and in and out. And so my dad, in relating to in caring for him, he went into hospice at home.
Yeah.
And I was there with my stepmom, his wife, and we had, my cousin Jerome, who's great, would come by and bring firewood and all that kind of stuff and help us with the stuff, so I wouldn't have to leave the house in case Dad needed to stand or sit down, because I was really the only one strong enough to lift him, because he was 6'2", and 100, and he was like 210 pounds, not fat, just a big dude. So my dad was a very solid guy, and then my cousin Bridget, who would cook for us and help and whatever. But there was a period where, and this is the part about Trump where I was like, holy shit, where we had to sleep in shifts on the couch. We had to put him in this. We got him one of those zero gravity chairs from a home health store, so that he could sleep in the chair, because he would try to get up and he couldn't move around, and if we needed to get him up, this would lift him part of the way. Yes. So he didn't have to lurch himself forward. He kept trying to do most of the work for us, and he just couldn't. So it would lift him up to the point where he was almost falling out of the chair, and he just lean onto his legs and he's standing, right?
Yeah.
And so we would do that, and he would sleep in that chair in front of the fireplace, because that's where he felt warmest and most comfortable. He felt very cold, and so we just kept the fire running all night. And we would sleep on the couch next to him, and so Bridget, bless her heart, would sleep on the couch, and then I would come up and I would do the 2 to 5 a.m. shift, specifically, on either side of that, but at least that. I set an alarm at 2 a.m. and I would come up, and she would go until morning, when everybody was basically up. I would be next to him in case something had to happen, because I can lift him, right? And that was the thing. Mm-hmm. Or if he tried to do something, I could stop him, whatever. Because at 2 o'clock, man, it was noon. If he, that's right. And it was some of the better conversations I was able to have with him, where he was aware and knew what was going on and what was happening with him, happened at 4 a.m., 3:50 in the morning, right, which is the dopiest part of the day for the brain. Like if you ask an assassin or a SEAL team, when do you hit when do you strike on a camp? Right before 4 a.m. Because even the guys who are on the night shift, who are trained and their job is to stay awake, it's like right before 4 a.m. It's like in Groundhog Day. Like, no matter what you do, good night, and everybody gets a little dozy and distracted around that window. That's when he was popping. So that reversal of day and night was very strong. And that's so, right. I would, that's where you have to get up and go to the bathroom. He might even want to walk around, which he shouldn't do. So I had to talk him down from the idea of walking him around. And you feel, that's the emotional thing of the caregiver, where you just feel like you're denying them something they want, but you're trying to help them. Yeah. Kind of like a toddler wanting to juggle chainsaws. You're like, right. I know you think you can do it, but you can't right now. Hang out and we'll do something else, or whatever. And I found ways around that. And the way I did was to get ahead of it. So once that chair thing, he was in another chair by the fire. So I was like, we're going to need one of those chairs that lift him up, whether I have to order it now and it arrives, or I'll go get it. I drove to a medical supply place and threw it in the back of the truck and bought one off the floor and just brought it there for him, because I know he's going to need this. And then I said he hates his walker and it's very hard for him. It's still working. He's still going to the bathroom and going in and out of the bedroom and all those places using the walker, but it's a lot. It's too much. We need him to get him a wheelchair. As soon as I got him a wheelchair, he could have breakfast with us. Because he would look at the breakfast table from across the living room where he was sitting and go, I can't. It's too much work. Like, he's like, no, I'll eat here, whatever. He would have really wanted to be with us, but he could suss the the effort that it would take to get there.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I was just trying to really each stage going, I know there's no out of this. He has chosen his path that is going to end in his own death in this house at some point in the near future, and it will seem like it's never going to happen, and then it's going to happen instantly, and that's exactly how it occurred. But
Yeah.
in him working with me and us working together, we plotted out like, look, we know this is the next step. We want to make it as easy for you as this next. There is no one around Trump doing any of this shit. And it is absolutely true that this motherfucker has burned every family bridge
Yes.
that would do this. Nobody's going to rub his goddamn ankles. Nobody's going to
No.
come over. None of the kids are going to get a call from Susie Wiles like, he's manic at 3 a.m. and he's asking for you. I don't know what to do. Give him something. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. Like the way that you describe, see, I'm getting just tons of information about just the way that you're describing the effort that you and the rest of the family put together, like the coordination of the sleep schedules, the getting all the medical equipment he needs, like that. The more you talk about it, the more I realize it's an ideal caregiving situation. Like he had everything he needed.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it's the only thing worse than aging is aging alone.
And you know what's worse than that? Aging alone in a crowd.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Just the idea that, you know, you guys obviously have quality enough relationships where you can give the people closest to you what they would need when they're vulnerable. And Donald Trump is not that kind of guy. Like, if you ever listen to Mary Trump talk to a clinical psychologist, she said, I haven't had contact with that family for years. They have no, she literally said on camera, they have no redeemable qualities. I'm much better off. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
She just laid it down. And I'm like, oh, why that and again, it goes back to, you know, how does somebody become president of the United States without being a little bit of a sociopath? Like, there's a little bit of, you know, but at the same time, it's like, that guy is such a 5-star asshole. Like, there's nobody, nobody rubbing
it's totally different. Right. Yeah. You have to be able, I would argue that you have to be able to compartmentalize, which a lot of people, the only people that we're familiar with in most situations that can compartmentalize to the effect of being able to handle all the stress and what you have to do as a president and all the things that are going to be thrown your way, or being a giant CEO or those kind of things. We link it with sociopathy because that's the only a parallel in regular life amongst normal people.
Right.
I have, and I want to say it's like hypofocus, I guess is what they call it, which is just short of mania, where you tinker all the time and you do shit. But that's what Da Vinci would have had if they medicalized what he was like. It's usually you're oversexed and you have hypomania. These are the two things. You're just shy of being manic, but this is that quality, that window that either metastasizes into sociopathy, where you don't care about who you're having sex with and you don't care what you're doing. You just have to be busy doing something. And as long as people are impressed, that's the sociopathy version that, that most presidents will fall into. And I guess Clinton was like that. He was oversexed and hypomanic. He was, and so just shy of being too manic. Problem is, if you got none of those guardrails, and it's not a character trait, it's your cells, which is what in Trump's case it has increasingly becomes.
Yeah, he's So I've dove deep into clinical data regarding it's called the triad personality type, the narcissistic, psychopathic, coercive of control type people. Many of them have a ton of overlap with pedophilia. It's funny how whenever you discover, I don't want you to get flagged on Twitch. Can I actually say that word?
Say whatever you want. I don't worry about being flagged.
Okay.
Other people worry about like what ads get shown on their shit. I don't care. If it demonetizes my stuff, I would rather speak frankly.
Sure. So the pedophiles don't do what they do to children in a vacuum. There's this complex construction of
the
layer after layer.
Right.
Yes. Layer after layer of grooming of not just the child, but around those children or child that could protect them. So that if anything ever does come out or become public, nobody can really get their head around it. Because they're like, that guy really?
Yep.
He hurts kids? No way.
Right.
That is all part of it. It's rolled in together because they can't, you know, it's like robbing a bank without covering your face.
Yes.
Like it's one and the same.
Yeah.
And the main reason I dug into it was because I was born into a fundamentalist religious cult that I escaped in 2017. It hasn't been that long ago.
Oh wow.
And so I started to untangle one painful step at a time. How does one end up under the influence of narcissistic, psychopathic, coercive control types?
Yeah.
And how do you get out of it? And then how do you clock it? He's got all that going on.
Yes.
All those markers. And what's funny is the clinical data was actually somewhat limited until very recently. Most of the data was coming from self-report of a clinical narcissist who'd been incarcerated, which is not the best way to gather data.
No.
They're going to tell you.
Because I've never been incarcerated, and yet I'm a great example of a clinical narcissist. I am actually offended by the idea that Donald Trump is called a narcissist, because he might have narcissistic personality disorder, but I actually think he has incredibly low self-esteem, and this is chicken feathers. That he is it's puffery and lies, instead of someone who really drinks their own Kool-Aid like me.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Right? Like I'm joking for it. I just think to be a stand-up. Sure. To be a stand-up, you need two traits in the beginning: ignorance and arrogance and stupidity. Basically, you got to be so full of yourself, people are going to think you're funny before you've ever tried it, because you cannot practice stand-up anywhere but on stage. Every other art, you can do it in a room until someone tells you you're good. Stand-up happens on stage, and so to believe you can even do it is fucking insane. So there's a certain thing that goes with it. Again, human stand-ups being a subset of a subset of a subset of humanity that have these particular traits and make them, can commodify something awful, I guess. But like the arrogance of it, which in my case is just hyper confidence from, I think a lot of comics that are decently balanced have very tested lives, whether it's a history of alcoholism in the family. You can make a group of drunks that hate each other laugh. You can pretty much do that in a room where they're paying you, right? And in my case, just like growing up kind of poor and in an area where stuff was actually tough, like in reality, materially, not, oh, this is hard to watch, or I saw this show the other day, or on the news, it just stresses me out. Like I was the person they were watching that would get stressed out, right? So once you surpass that, you're like, fuck, being funny in the face of all this isn't a problem. So that's where that confidence comes from. But it has to be a term of arrogance. And then, of course, stupidity comes with, it's statistically impossible that you'll make it. So you have to actively be stupid. You engage in stupidity, which is not being dumb. Stupidity is knowing something and doing it anyways, right? It's the old redneck, all rednecks die by going, hey, watch this,
Yes. True story.
So we're a little bit over, but I really appreciate this conversation, and I'm still hung up, and I think a lot of my chat are, on this 3 to 5 months window, and that brings us to about spring. But instead of me, saying it's the 4-hour window where they're managing him, you're thinking that's the collapse. That's when it's just too far gone for anything. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's my estimate. And I'm fine being wrong about that. But I'm taking into account his medical history, his current presentation, and his compliance as a patient.
Right. You
roll all that together. Yeah.
So he's never had compliance as a patient. And I have 2 more questions, then I'll let you go. And I really appreciate you being on there. And people should subscribe to Doc Adams' channel. That's what I'm going to call him from now on. Welcome back, Doc Adam. Because we have a Doc Andy and a Doc Hamilton in our family circle of people. One was Doc Andy was the most well-known gynecologist in Cincinnati and carried a buck knife on his belt into surgery and all that kind of stuff, and was an ornery motherfucker, and yet delivered every baby in the greater Cincinnati area for a period of time. And then Doc Hamilton's a banjo player, but he's actually got his doctorate in God knows what, probably whisketology. Okay. But drunk. He's got a PhD in drunken regalia. But so the one thing I have is with that 3 to 5 month window, I'm sure you have seen in both in family having to deal with them. Like let's say you got a similar patient, same shit, smaller scale. Mayor of a small town starts doing this, and his family starts asking, and he goes to the doctor, and then he steps down as mayor, and they put him in a home, and then they try this intervention, his family goes through this, and then they start making plans for the funeral. That's really what goes on. I mean, it's what happened to my grandfather. What should we watch for in the people around him, Susie Wiles and others, and the medical stuff that we'll start seeing, like, oh, they took him for another test while he was on Christmas break, or he golfed near this medical center, that kind of thing, or, you know what I mean? Like, what are the flags that we should go, yep, there's the next, what's the next thing to watch out for, then the next step past that, because it's a track laid out,
Yeah. So what to watch for in the people around him, you say?
And I mean, in his behavior too, I would guess, but specifically how the people around him, you can tell they are compensating.
Yeah. So for him, you're just going to see a decrease in function during that typical window that he's working in right now. You see less frequent press conferences. If he stops playing golf altogether, by the way, he's terrible at golf.
Yes. He always has been, though. Like, yeah.
He's awful.
Yeah.
He's gonna, if he quits playing golf, that might be one of the biggest indicators.
Yeah.
Or if the frequency of his golf outing slows down,
mm-hmm.
because he loves nothing more than to waste a whole boatload of money to go to Mar-a-Lago on Air Force One and go fucking play golf.
Well, that's what keeps his properties afloat. It's not even that he wants to go golfing, but if he brings the entire entourage down there, they charge him retail, and the American taxpayer is keeping these properties afloat. Mm-hmm. They'll all be in receivership 6 months after he's done.
That's right. So those would be big indicators for him. The inability to have a press conference, to get through. The press conferences will get shorter and shorter. They would love to do with the White House press corps what the Pentagon has done with the Pentagon press corps,
mm-hmm.
Where it's basically the room is filled with, they got Matt Gaetz as a reporter at the Pentagon now. What a joke. They would love to do that with the White House press, and I think even they don't quite have the balls to do that yet. But the reason they would love to do it is because they know that Trump will not be able to functionally. Right now, he's engaging in a behavior called perseveration, where a dementia patient will get stuck on a particular topic or a particular task,
right?
And they just won't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And in those situations, the best thing you can do is turn their attention. You got to de-escalate and turn their attention to something that they also enjoy,
mm-hmm.
or something that would pique their interest. Because it's a brick wall.
Reagan used to teach his dog a trick every day, or go look at the leaves that had fallen into the fountain pool at the White House, and he would count them. Nancy would have him count the leaves to focus his brain, and he did it every morning. He either did if it was winter, it was the dog, whatever. But I don't know if you ever saw, was it? Maybe it was Clear President. Who was it? Fuck. Robert Culp played the president in the movie. I'll remember it later. But there's this thing about him teaching the dog a trick in the thing where they come into the White House and Robert Culp is playing the president of the United States in this movie, and where they Pelican Brief. It's in the Pelican Brief.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's a scene in it. Movie. I love Robert Culp. I'll watch anything. Geez, Ralph, would you put on the pajamas? And anyways, they showed this bit, right, where he was throwing a ball and he's like, hey, you got to check this out. Watch what I've taught him to do. That was a reference to Reagan sundowning.
Oh my God.
In that movie. That was a reference to Reagan would do that every day. And so the problem with Trump is, if it ain't golf, it's the just let him fucking truth sinkhole for a while. Give him his phone.
Right.
or have him sit there and dictate stuff to you. Tell us what you want to say, Mr. President. And then he just, just vomits all this hideousness out. That may very well be the distraction you're talking about. Did you see?
Yes.
I'm curious if you've seen his granddaughter taking him golfing. They've been trying to humanize him around the Epstein stuff. So his granddaughter, who looks like one of Epstein's victims, right in that age window, is like, Grandpa, I love you. And they're riding along in a cart together. And there are times when he's talking where she could be a total fucking stranger. He talks to her just like he talks to anybody else. And they're like, isn't it sweet how they interact? I'm like, nope, you're projecting. Yeah. Look at what he really sounds like. He's like, he just rambles on about who's a good golfer and who's not a good golfer and who's got a good swing and who doesn't. It's the same shit he says to fucking, Kraft or any of those other dickheads he hangs out with that aren't his friends either. But I'd be curious, like she has, I'm going to blitz on her name, but his granddaughter has a YouTube channel. Kaya or something like that. Yeah, Kai. That's right. Kai has a YouTube channel, and they did a whole fucking mini documentary of her golfing with her grandpa. Watch that. Holy shit. Now, one, it's to distract from the Epstein stuff, but he's huffing and puffing before the first stroke.
Of course he is. He's 80 years old.
Right. And it's not, as was it Indiana Jones famously said, it's not the years, it's the mileage. So I appreciate you being on with me. I'm going to let you go because I know you're a busy man. I'd love to have you on again soon, especially when there's a mile marker. I want to see if this is one of them. So I might call you up and have you come on and go, I think we just saw something. I think with them doing this, that's what's happening, because after what I've been through and after what you do for a living and with my mom's experience in the stuff that she's done most of my life, I've got a very acute awareness of this stuff too. And I can't, when he's doing this in a meeting, when his eyes start to cross.
That's the face. You just did it.
The cross-eyed Yoda face.
Oh, brother.
You will be. You will be. You know exactly. It's and
oh man.
Yeah. That's where he is, and there's no secret CIA juice they can jack him up with that will do that. And apparently they're trying a bunch of that shit to see if it works, but they're trying it on RFK Jr. because that twitchy motherfucker. What the fuck is he on?
Bubonic Bobby.
Yeah, I've said that RFK Jr. looks like if somebody from Puppetry of the Penis took their scrotum and squished it up and went and folded it and did all that and said, if you squint, it looks like Bobby. That's what. But in all those meetings, in all those meetings he's in, he's like, like Kramer. Like, he is the Kramer of this fucking Seinfeld show. Like,
what a reference. Okay.
Except instead of barging into the room, he leaves as soon as somebody falls over, right? But watch him. Fuck. Just, Mr. President, the great Gonzo. Mm-hmm. But I think he's testing everything on himself. Like, this worked. I feel a lot better after this. It's ayahuasca and speed. Have you ever heard of Pervitin? Right. So, and Adderall makes you all frothy in the mouth. You can see it when some people take too much Adderall. It makes your salivary glands overreact. And you can see it in some of the right-wingers who are big on it. When they start talking, they start sounding like Carol Channing. And Trump really, like at the Kennedy Center and the Christmas lighting, that was after dark. Man, he starts, he's got a bunch of spit in there. That's 100%. They just chucked an extra Adderall, I think he snorts it anyways. But anyways, all right, we'll talk forever. So thank you so much for being on. Greatly appreciate you. Not just being on, but the stuff you're covering on your channel and the work that you do, because I know the value of that work, and it is
I really
immeasurable.
Appreciate that. And it's an absolute thrill to be just invited on the show and to have the conversation about this. I never would have guessed 14 years ago when I took my first home health job that this is where, this is the kind of stuff, it was an accident that I got into content creation to begin with. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'd love to be back.
Me too. I was like, as an actor and a comedian, when COVID comes along and shuts every comedy club and all production down, you're like, well, how do I feed these kids?
That's right.
So, but it's got value, and as long as it retains value, I think for both of us, the nice thing is, and I think this is true, that you and I both are in this situation where content creation and this kind of stuff is a valuable part of our life, and it has a thing. But if Trump goes away and somehow the world normalizes and we all move on to something else, we both have good works and good life hobbies and family and stuff that we can do to continue to add to the world without this, whereas I don't think a lot of these other folks do. And especially the people who've been hanging out on Trump. Yes, right. Bongholio is screwed. Yeah. So bless you, brother. Thank you for being on, and I'll let you go, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Totally. Thanks, man.
All right. Absolutely. Yeah, you too. Hold on. I'll let you leave the screen. So there you go, with dignity. There you go. Thanks so much. So chat room, don't forget to hit the like, share the show, etc., etc. It's that liking that really boosts it for the algorithm, especially when I'm live right out of the gate. Greatly appreciate you guys. I will have a regular show this afternoon, back to regular schedule for the foreseeable future. And until around the holiday break, school holiday break. But for the next couple weeks, I'm yours. But damn, 3 to 5 months. 3 to 5 months. Not till my window of 4 hours a day. 3 to 5 months. Period. Like, that's, yeah. And I would say, I think they have everything they would need to kind of stretch that out for a normal person, maybe 8 months, but only if they really cared, right? Only if Trump worked with them, and only if the people around him wanted him to survive, instead of like, sign all this shit so you can kick off. It's one of the, again, it feels like Knives Out, like sign the will and then we don't give a fuck who stabs you. We don't care what happens to you after you sign the will. And this is with him signing off on like Project 2025 pages over and over and over again. Honest to God, I don't even think, I think they're counting on, it's kind of, accusations of elder abuse if there's an attempt to impeach him again. When we take the House and if we take the Senate, and even if we don't, if the margin's just closer, the excuse they're going to use about why you should leave him alone is he's done so much for this country and he's a frail old man. He's going to use the Weinstein-Cosby offense. I'm blind with a walker. Who cares that I did all these things to these women when I was moving around? I can't do it anymore, so why are you punishing? Life is punishing me enough. And like, nope, old age comes for all of us. You have to spend yours in jail because of what you did. You don't get to skip it. Don't quit your day job. Thank you. This is my day job. Son of a bitch. So, anyways, I will see you guys this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And I am working on a holiday special finally. And this year, I think because of all the tools I have available to me, it's never been more possible. So we'll talk of that as we go on. But until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else.
Uncle Joe is drunk by 5, and Marie can't let it slide. She brings up the will again.
And subscribe, by the way, damn it.
Christmas with these assholes again. Cousin Bill forgot my name, still insists we play charades. Grandma's glare could pierce your skin. Christmas with these assholes again. Oh, the eggnog spiked The tension's high, the turkey's dry as sand. But I'll survive, just smile and lie. It's Christmas with these assholes again. The carolers sang, but Dad slammed the door, said he's had enough of their cheer. The dog ate the ham and then threw it up, but hey, that's just this time of year. Sister Sue brought her new fling. Mom pretends to like the ring. She whispers he's just like the last 10. Christmas with these assholes again.